has taken me over 8 years of reading, journaling, voice recording to get to this point. And I want you to know that in order to change your brain, in order to align your mind, you have to have a sense of awareness. You have to have a baseline knowledge of how your brain works. What are the thoughts that you're having? If you don't have that baseline, a lot of this information isn't going to serve you. So you have to build a practice around your awareness and being more aware of yourself. Start journaling. Start taking voice notes. Start being present with yourself when you're in a crisis so that you can take notes and change your life. This is how you begin to align your mind. Everything else in this video is going to be very useful to you, but if you do not have a baseline knowledge or awareness, or even just a journal that you keep that has all of your thoughts, all of your past experiences within it, this is going to be harder. If you do not have an awareness practice or practice around building your awareness, you're going to want to start, because aligning your mind takes being aware of not only how it works, but how it has been affecting your life up to now. A lot of us get ourselves into trouble because we think that our mind is supposed to be in charge. A lot of us end up feeling stuck because we've believed that our mind is supposed to be in charge, and therefore we have put our mind in the position to be in charge of everything. Yes, I understand. Our mind does all of these things. It collects information, it keeps us safe, it allows us to understand where we are in the world, what is our place, and how do we survive, right? However, allowing our mind to take control is like letting the engine of a car drive. Like, yes, the engine is really important to the vehicle, but at the end of the day, it's not the engine that's in the driver's seat. And therefore, I think that analogy does really well to show us the purpose of the mind and where the mind actually belongs. The mind is a tool. It's a tool that can seem complicated, but really and truly, the mind only needs two things. Yeah, two things, which is repetition and evidence. So if you have evidence and you are willing to repeat something over and over to really drill it in there and create a pattern for your brain to cling on to, then you are going to master this. However, the only way that we can master our mind is to first fully understand how it is that our mind works. And a lot of the times we don't realize how much our mind shapes our reality. And so I'm going to erase my beautiful drawing here on aligning our mind, and we're going to talk about the purpose of the mind and how we've been using it. We're going to talk about how it works, like what are all these different components, how we can actually shift and begin to rearrange those things that are already in place, and then how that turns us into a more powerful, in control being that can utilize the power of our mind instead of succumbing to it. So without further ado, my name is Ron Natalia. Welcome back. And if you are new here, feel free to subscribe as we go deeper into this journey. And without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so welcome back to our Contract to Expand series, where we talk about how we can align all of our different parts so that we are in the best space that we need to be, having the most aligned, concentrated, powerful energy to bring into fruition whatever it is we're trying to create. And today we're going to be talking about how do we align our mind. I don't want to erase the image of I believe I spelled that wrong too, Jesus. Oh wow. I don't know if I'm getting the award for spelling today. And alright. Oh man, so I think I spelled this wrong. God, I think it would eat me up inside if I left that like that. So we're gonna run with it. So we can separate the way that our mind works into three main parts, and that's going to be our limiting beliefs, our habits, and then survival slash basic function. So survival slash basic function, we're talking about breathing, things that we do without thinking, like digesting food, knowing not to like cross the road when the light's red. All of these things is what we're going to put into the basic survival area. And a lot of the time, because of our basal ganglia, habits and survival can overlap. And you'll see very shortly how the limiting beliefs are the foundation for our habits, which lead into our survival, which makes them really hard to dismantle. And a lot of the times I find that when we're told that we have limiting beliefs, we get very defensive, because limiting beliefs for us are the reality. And when we are talking about dismantling limiting beliefs, we are talking about dismantling reality. And a lot of people get really uncomfortable with dismantling reality because they have defined themselves within this reality. They have given themselves worth. They have found their value. They have created family. They have beliefs and systems that support who they are as a person within this reality that they've built. So if you were telling someone, a lot of the times when I tell someone, even when I told myself that this belief has to go in order for me to achieve something greater, in order for me to make shifts in my life, it was difficult because it meant willingness to lose my worth, willingness to lose the way that I define myself, willingness to lose my family, perhaps, because maybe we have the same beliefs and I'll be challenging those. So shifting a limiting belief in and of itself already is not easy, because it is the basis of a lot of who we are, which also makes it powerful though, because if we can shift the basis of who we are, then we can be anything. And that is why the mind is so powerful, because the mind is where we begin to undo all of these things. And I really want you guys to grasp right now that your mind is not locked in at any particular age. Your mind is malleable forever. And by malleable, it just means that your mind is constantly willing to change and shift with you if you know how to change and shift it. And that's what we're going to get into today. And we're going to start with limiting beliefs. And to do that, I'm going to have to shift our drawing. So, beliefs. I'm going to have to pull out some really good examples today. So bear with me. I also didn't script a lot of this video because I just think I'm going to channel the whole thing. We're going to channel the whole thing. And whatever happens, happens. You know? This is where we're starting. And this is us. This is our mind. And this is the reality that our mind has created. And within that reality, the main thing, we're going to release the thought of a limiting belief for now, and we're just going to talk about beliefs. Your beliefs are the foundation for this box, and this box is your reality. And I'm only using it as a box because I want you to understand that this is standing between you and whatever positive, universal happening that is waiting for you. So this can be abundance, love, joy, peace, high vibrations waiting for you beyond the reality that your beliefs have created. And for example, let's say that you want to attract abundance into your life, but I'm actually using myself as an example because this used to be a limiting belief of mine. And my limiting belief was that people that are abundant are in some way at their core not good people. Like they have done something evil to accumulate large amounts of money. And so let's put that as the limiting belief, right? So this was my limiting belief. Rich people aren't good people. And one of the things that you will find with a limiting belief is that if you, right, say me, I want to be good people. So therein, my desire to be rich, my desire to be abundant wouldn't align with me because I don't see good and rich aligning. I had a limiting belief that created a reality where rich people were bad, and therefore I could never be rich because then I'd have to put aside my morals, betray people, be mean, be evil, right? And that's not the truth, but that was the belief that created my reality. And something that I want you to pay attention to with your mind is that, have you ever been chilling, right? And then you have a conversation with someone and they're like, yeah, I never see any red cars. And then all of a sudden, for maybe the rest of the day or like weeks and weeks to come, you see nothing but red cars. It's because you have placed the idea of something in your mind. If you tell your mind to look for something, if you tell your mind something, period, it begins to look for evidence. Remember, I told you the brain is very simple. It wants two things: repetition and evidence. Right? And so every time I found instances in my life where rich people were bad people, my brain was like, evidence, boom. And then the belief, guess what? It got stronger. The belief gets stronger every time there's evidence. So when I was younger, when I passed a really nice house and I asked my mom, whose house is that? And she would say, oh, that was a drug dealer's house. Rich people are bad people. Evidence. The belief got stronger. Right? When people close to me started to have things that I didn't have, but they were getting them in ways that I didn't think were nice, or they had to betray someone, or they were stealing, or they were scamming people. Again, my brain took that as evidence and it strengthened the belief, right? However, there were also simultaneously in the world good people that were achieving abundance. However, because that's not the belief that I had given my brain to search for, that was not what I began to see and attract. You have to understand that not only is your brain searching for evidence, but you are putting out a frequency, an energy that is going to pull into your field the thing that is being supported and put out into your mind. So when the time comes to dismantle this belief, it's so powerful because it's all that you've been thinking about. It's all that you've ever collected evidence for in your library of the world. And that's all your brain wants: evidence and repetition. So when we start to think about, and I'm getting ahead of myself actually, and so this is the representation of our limiting beliefs, right? And this can stand for any limiting belief that you have. So it can be, oh, boys like that will never like girls like me, or only women that do XYZ deserve the lover that XYZs, or I'm too this to get that. Anything that stops you from having something that you want because you do not fit within a certain ideal social construct, look, whatever, is a belief that is limiting you. And that's why it's called a limiting belief. And then what ends up happening is once the belief is established and your brain is giving you evidence of that being true, and it creates the reality around you with all of the evidence that says, yeah, no, this is pretty, yeah, this is, yeah, you know, world's full of red cars. Then you begin to build habits that reinforce that belief, right? So, again, notice the belief is blocking everything else around you because this belief doesn't align with abundance. This belief doesn't align with joy. This belief doesn't align with love. This belief doesn't align with peace. So, also understand that whatever your beliefs align with is also what's going to be attracted. And let's move on. We understand how our brain works when it comes to limiting beliefs. And please understand that limiting beliefs can start very young. You can establish thoughts and opinions of people from the moment you gain consciousness. And for some people, that's as young as 3 years old, that they remember that a certain family member of theirs got treated differently because of a certain character trait, and they never wanted to have that character trait. These limiting beliefs can also be based in what makes you feel safe, what makes you feel seen, what makes you feel heard. So if you're saying to yourself, people that ask too many questions. So if you're a kid and you see in your family people that ask too many questions get ignored, they get yelled at, they get neglected. Don't forget, your brain is also in charge of your survival. So survival, getting neglected is bad for survival. You don't want to get neglected. The minute that your brain sees that people are stepping away from you and they're not looking for you and they're not checking for you because you ask too many questions, what do you think is going to happen to asking questions for you? You're going to stop asking questions. You're just going to do what you're told, and even if you have the slightest bit of curiosity, it's not going to go towards the people that are close to you, that you love, that you want to answer those questions, because you know they're going to ignore you. And that's not good for survival. Kids that get ignored don't get fed, don't get loved, don't get seen, don't get heard, and they don't live, is how the brain sees it. So this can become a limiting belief. This can form a habit of never asking questions, never asking for help, and growing into an adult that feels that they have to do everything themselves and figure it out, or else they get left behind, they get neglected, and nobody wants to be around them. So then you have someone that's really self-sufficient, that doesn't know how to ask for help, that feels really lonely, even though they're surrounded by people that love asking them for help because they have all the answers, because they go looking for all the answers. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down right now? Again, the brain is looking for evidence and repetition. And whatever we put out, a lot of the times, we're going to find exactly what we're looking for. So if we're continuing with our limiting belief of people that ask questions get ignored, that's going to create a habit of never asking questions. So we're building never asking questions, figuring things out on my own. And quite honestly, this can even feel lonely. So the very thing that in your childhood led to your survival can now, and this happens very often, can be the very thing that does the opposite and begins to harm you in your adulthood. Because now that you're dependent on yourself for survival, this habit will no longer serve you. This habit is going to hinder you. Because now that we never ask questions and we figure things out on our own, our reality is that we don't attract people that answer questions, because we don't ask questions anyway. We attract people that need answers. And we probably attract people that don't look for answers themselves. No question answerers are present, because we haven't put out that we need that or that we want that, because we're too busy doing it ourselves. So you can see how the belief in it, once established, creates the foundation for the habit, because it gives us the action. See, once we've made the thought, we have the action, the energy comes. Mind you. So then how do we shift from this? How do we shift away from a reality that is not serving us, a reality that makes us feel alone, a reality that we once thought would make us feel seen, heard, safe, abundant, joyful, loved, that's not giving us that? We have to pick out the limiting beliefs that are no longer serving us and the limiting beliefs that have us outside of alignment. And a lot of people will call this something else. Some people will call this cognitive dissonance. Is when we say we want this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, but none of our actions align with a person that would do these, that would attract these things. Right? So, like I said, the brain wants two things in order for you to shift it, and that is evidence and repetition. So when we're starting with limiting beliefs, the first thing that we need to do is find the opposite of our belief. We need to have a growth-based belief. So the first thing that we need to do when we are taking the reins away from our mind, when we are beginning to reprogram our mind so that we can attract the things that we actually want, we need to do, the first thing is, because we're expanding. I'm just going to call it an expansive belief because a limiting belief keeps us small. An expansive belief allows us the room to grow. This is a growth-based belief, a growth mindset belief. And the foundation for this growth mindset belief, this expansive belief, can rest in your limiting belief. The best way to explain this is going to be with an example. Okay, so let's take our limiting belief, for example, that people who ask questions get ignored. Right? So the expansive belief then has to be our blank. And the reason why someone else cannot replace this belief for you is because it has to sound good to you. It has to sound meaningful to you, right? So for example, people who ask questions are needed. People who ask questions are loved. People who ask questions are problem solvers. People who ask questions are innovators, right? Because, and you can support this. You can support this by saying, if no one asked questions, nothing would be solved. Because how do you solve a problem without asking questions, right? And then you can go ahead, and the next thing that you need to do once you've replaced that belief is you have to look for the evidence. Let's go for like another one. And even, so let's say like the second one was like my old limiting belief that rich people are bad people. They did something bad to get their money. We can replace this with rich people are. So we can say, my handwriting gets so bad at the bottom. Oh, whatever. We can say rich people are resourceful. Rich people are, and it has to be something that you want to reinforce a trait that you have that isn't out of alignment. And when I say out of alignment, there's a journal that is on my channel, and it will be on my channel by the time this video goes up, that allows you to understand what your pillars are, the pillars of who you are, and then you can use words that are in alignment with that to put where your belief is, right? So rich people are, for me, creative. Rich people are, like I said, resourceful. Rich people are abundant. Rich people, so we can change this into something that aligns with us. So once we have our limiting belief and we're replacing it with an expansive belief, the next thing that we're going to want to do is get the evidence. Because remember, we can't just tell our brain, we can't just tell our brain, no, you're wrong. Our brain doesn't care what we say. That's one thing that I think is really interesting, is we have this expectation of our brain to just take our word at face value, when we ourselves don't take anybody else's word at face value. A lot of the time, we have our minds made up based on the evidence that is given to us. Our brain's the same way. Our brain's not going to take people who ask questions are innovators and loved and needed if it still is sitting on the evidence that every time you have asked questions in the past, you got neglected or told to shut up, or the kid in the class that asked a question, everybody laughed at him and called him dumb. Like, your brain's like, no, I've got this right here. You can't fool me. I ain't stupid. I am your brain. So the first thing that we need to do once we're trying to replace our limiting belief with an expansive belief is we need to give it the evidence. And the evidence can also be your expander. right? So the expansive belief needs evidence / an expander. And all an expander is someone who your expander is someone who looks like you, someone who resonates with you, someone that embodies who you think you are, doing, having, embodying the thing that you desire. So if you're naturally curious, if you can't help but to ask questions, the belief that people who ask questions get ignored, get neglected, get rejected is going to hold you back your entire life, because you will feel that this thing that is natural to you, this thing that is innate, inherent to who you are as a person, the part of you that drives your soul, which is to know, to ask questions, to be curious, is meant to be rejected, is meant to be neglected, is meant not to have love. And that's insane to think that you were born to exist without love, without joy, without the things that you deserve in this world. And so once that expansive belief comes into place, you will now need to look for people that are naturally curious, that have the love you want, that have the life that you want, that have the family you want, that have the friends that you want. You have to search for expanders. And you might be like, oh wow, how am I supposed to do that? Put it out into the universe. Ask for it. Anything that you ask for, even if it's just to see it, will be presented to you. I promise you. Try it. Just try. Literally sit with yourself, sit with your beliefs, write out your limiting beliefs and your expansive beliefs. That's going to replace it. Then find the evidence. What would that look like? What would the embodiment of your expansive belief look like? Focus on that. Focus on how that would come. And then go about your day. Just go about your life. It will begin to come to you. And when it comes, don't ignore it. That's the thing, like I've talked about this before. We have to build a practice of listening and receiving. Sometimes we get the thing that we're asking for, but we're not even focused, we're not even present enough to embody it. And so, aligning our mind, searching for the expander is going to be the evidence that's going to replace that limiting belief. And once you begin to see it, take note. Take a screenshot, take a picture, go introduce yourself to that person. But you want to start to bring yourself into the orbit of the energy, of the frequency, of the thing that is going to literally shift you out of your limiting belief. Because it exists, I promise you. Right? So let's talk about it. Let's go with an example for me. So remember, I said I had this limiting belief that rich people were bad people. Oh, that's the limiting belief. But now, that's just it. Rich people are abundant, deserving of love, kindness, and all the things that they have attracted, right? And I promise you, the minute that I stopped seeing rich people as bad people, I have met very well-off people in my line of work that are the sweetest, most kind, giving, philanthropic people that I have ever set my eyes on. And the way that their soul, literally when they enter a room, like they can light up a place and they can literally give endlessly. And because they are existing in this space of abundance, there's a benevolence to these people that I've met. And that is like, I want that. I want to embody that. My abundance is so high that I don't even see that I am a conduit for the abundance of others, because I'm just receiving and giving so freely. And I've met multiple people, I would say, that are now in my close circle that embody the life that I desire in a way that doesn't make me feel icky and gross and uncomfortable. And so it is possible. And they are my expanders. They don't even know it because I'm an expander for them in different ways. So a lot of the times when you come into the frequency of the thing that you want, you will find that it also needs you to be there. The space that you're inhabiting has been waiting for you to embody a new belief so that you can ascend to the frequency where you are needed as well. So that's also very important. Now, we understand that our beliefs are the foundation of our habits, and our habits create our reality, and we need to begin to have evidence to support our new beliefs. And one of the things that I want you to understand when it comes to beliefs is, I tell my clients this all the time: 2 things can be true. 2 things can be true. Accepting that, yes, there are some people in the world that are rich that do very bad things. However, the fact that they exist does not diminish my deservingness of abundance. And it doesn't mean that I will shift, my foundation will shift at its core because I am experiencing abundance. And abundance as an energy is so much greater than just being rich monetarily. And so 2 things can be true. Allow yourself to open to receiving more than just your limiting belief. If even in a point in time where you just have to have 2 beliefs that coexist, as you collect evidence for your expansive belief, I think that makes shifting beliefs easier. Is that you're not completely throwing away your old belief. You're just saying, I don't exist in that space anymore. Like, this is your old belief, right? And you are here living life, and it's your truth. That's totally fine. But what your expansive belief does is it creates an opening for you to come out and go somewhere else. And yes, this place still exists. But then you get to decide, do I want to put out a frequency? Do I want to live in the space where this is my reality? Or do I want to venture out into what could be possible for me just by shifting away from, this is the truth, this is all there is, this is everything ever, and nothing else will ever exist ever, never, no. Your expansive belief is your gateway to elevate yourself. That's all it is. And when I say that's all it is, I'm saying it in the sense that don't see it as this big bad thing that is going to completely dismantle your life. And if it does dismantle your life, then maybe call into question how many parts of your life actually align with you. Because if it aligns with this belief, and this belief makes you feel like doo-doo, it makes you feel like you would rather die than live another day, maybe you need to throw it away. Maybe you need to start over. Sorry. I'm not sorry. That's the truth. All right, so let's recap really quickly. So we understand that limiting beliefs are the basis for our habits, and they create our reality. And in order to replace them, we have to have expansive beliefs, and the expansive belief needs evidence. However, we also said the brain needs 2 things. It needs repetition. Where does the repetition come in? The repetition comes in for the habit. Wow, this video is going to be long. All right, so I'm going to go into the way the brain works around habit, and I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version. Your brain has a habit loop. The habit loop has 3 parts. The cue, which is the thing that makes you do the habit. So we have the cue, the routine, and then the reward. Yeah. Ew. Right? So the cue, the routine, and the reward. That's the way that a habit works. Whenever a cue comes in, it tells you to do the routine. The routine gets you the reward. Whatever that reward might be can be different for everyone. For example, in our example that where we talked about people who ask questions get rejected, neglected, and the reward was safety. The reward was having people around you because nobody ever rejected you for asking questions. So you had company, right? So the reward was safety and company and so forth. So whenever you felt the urge to ask a question, your routine would actually be to go find your own answers, and then you'd be safe within your own circle, and then maybe you'd even bring the answer to other people, and then that would make you feel valuable, and they would be like, oh yeah, we love having you around. You always have all the answers. You're the best. Right? However, we know that that habit is based in a limiting belief that no longer serves us, and we are trying to have an expansive belief. So, ideally, what we want is to change the habit. However, with habit changing, the very basis of a habit is that if you want to successfully exchange an old habit for a new one that serves you, one that brings you joy, one that fulfills you and feels more aligned with you, you only need to change one part. But you have to be aware of the other 2 parts. And I am an awareness advocate through and through. You must keep the cue. And in this example, your cue is your curiosity. So you want to keep it. This is the part of you that is your soul. It's authentic to you. This is why you're alive. You are here to ask the damn questions. Amen. So the cue, it's fine. It's safe. We want to keep the reward because we know that this is what's driving us to do the routine in the first place. We wouldn't do this if we didn't have this on the other end waiting for us. So we have to keep the safety and the company as the reward. But now the thing that we need to change, the only thing that we can change successfully in the brain that is going to eliminate this habit is going to be the routine. What are the actions? So for example, whenever we feel curious about something, instead of our usual going inward and running away from everyone and finding our own answers and not asking anybody else anything, maybe we find ourselves a mentor. Maybe we find a message board full of people that love being asked questions, right? And then we find safety and community there, right? We have the safety of our mentor, someone that's always going to be there for us to ask questions to. And they also keep us company because now we are free to embody our soul purpose and have the company of someone that appreciates that part of us. They love when we ask questions. You can work a job where you just ask questions. I'm pretty sure, isn't that what consultants do? Don't correct me. Auditors. That's what auditors do, right? Don't correct me. You can totally correct me, by the way. But the actions that you take that have the same reward is how we change the habit. This is literally the science of how your brain works. And success comes from repetition. Just how this was ingrained in you throughout your entire childhood, when you come to change it, you are going to have to give yourself more than a week. More than 2 weeks. I think when I was reading up on it, it says that to successfully replace a habit, you have to give it at least 2 months, 2 to 3 months of being very mindful and aware and intentional. And the more that your brain sees there's evidence, there's repetition that this thing can be true, you begin to change your life and you climb that staircase into a reality that better serves you. And that is how we begin to align our mind. Now, We want our habits and we want our beliefs to align with our pillars. So I've told you before, and by now I will have another video out that describes this in detail. So I'm going to go over this very, very briefly. We are like a box. Well, I'm lying. Our foundation is a box. So let's say this is the foundation of who we are, right? Ooh, don't watch the drawing, y'all. It's literally just for the example. And we are standing on this pillar. This is our foundation of who we are. We take off from here, we come back to here. This is our foundation, right? This is who we are. Each corner is going to be based on a key core part of your soul. So for example, for me, my pillars are freedom, creativity, connection, human connection. I love it. And I want to say safety, I want to say security, but I'm pretty sure I have another pillar that is not that, but I'm going to put it for now. I know what it is now. Because I'm like, bro, my main pillar is to play. I love to play, y'all. Let me tell you. I love to play. So everything that I do when I'm thinking of my habits and my beliefs, gosh, I'm writing like horribly today. And I'm going to make this another color, and I'm going to slow down. I don't know why I'm rushing now. I think it's because the video's been long enough, and I'm worried. So, all of my habits and all of my beliefs are connected to one of my pillars, at least. You can have multiple, but at least one. And that's how you're going to know that you're in alignment, because these come from my soul. So whenever my brain is having a belief or I am partaking in a habit, it has to serve one of these core parts of me. If it's not serving any of those parts, I am out of alignment. If I cannot find, how is this serving my creativity? How is this serving my connection to others? How is this serving my freedom? How is this serving my desire for play? If I can't figure that out between my beliefs and my habits, I am out of alignment. And it's probably not for me, and it's not going to feed my soul. It's not going to be conducive to anything that I do. And if I take off from my foundation and whatever I'm doing is not a part of that, I am not going to have a good time. And my whole human experience is about having a good time and serving these four pillars. So that's the end of our first section of Contracting to Expand, where we talk about how do we align our mind. And I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, please do ask them in the comments. Also, let me know, how have you been contracting to expand recently, and how have you been preparing for this process? I've always been Ron Natalia, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. If you have enjoyed this video, you will probably enjoy this one, and I will see you next time you come around. I love ya.